Carol Webb is asking this afternoon, Governor, do you think the Supreme Court will get involved in the Trump lawsuit in Georgia?
I think it's very possible, not just that lawsuit, the one in Georgia, but I think it's very likely that they will at some point intervene in all of these criminal charges being filed. And the reason is because there's some real constitutional questions as to whether it's appropriate for the current president, Joe Biden, and his administration, i.e. Merrick Garland and the FBI that worked for Joe Biden, to be criminally charging Donald Trump for what he believes and says. I mean, that's stepping across a line there that we can never return from if this goes on, where instead of beating your opponent in a presidential election, you hold the office, so you use all the levers and powers of government to criminally charge and disable your opponent. And I just think that is just troubling.
Alan Weber asking today, Gov, what about the special counsel? Get on with it.
Well, funny you should bring that up. You know, just about 2 hours ago, Merrick Garland made an announcement, took no questions, of course, but he made an announcement that David Weiss up in Delaware, who is the U.S. attorney there, and the one who supposedly put together this little deal where Hunter was going to get off with nothing more than a couple of misdemeanors for tax evasion. And Merrick Garland announces that David Weiss will be the special counsel, and he will be given the opportunity to visit any of the crimes of Hunter Biden. Now, for those who would say, oh, that's wonderful, well, Merrick Garland, he's going to get tough. Let's put this in perspective. What's really going on? Here's what's happening. Merrick Garland is assigning David Weiss, who's already shown that he's not likely to do anything rash and outside the sort of the bounds of the D.C. uniparty. And he's appointed him so it's a sleight of hand. Hey, look over here. So you don't see what's going on over here. What's the timing of this? Right now, James Comer and the House Committee of Oversight is pouring out bank records that show that the Biden family took over $20 million in deals with foreign government business operations, including China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. This is some pretty serious stuff. And as this stuff starts to come up, Merrick Garland trots out and says, we'll have a special counsel. Now, many of the things that we really should know what happened, the statute of limitations has run out on those things. So he's not going to be looking at some of the most egregious crimes and times, and that was strategic. And that's why I think they held this whole investigation up until just recently when they came out and said, oh, we have a special deal. What they didn't expect was the judge said, this deal stinks, threw it out, told him to come back. So now the whole thing's messed up. I am absolutely convinced, I could be wrong, but I rarely am. All of this is a ruse. It's just an attempt to deflect attention away from the investigation that Congress is doing. And here's what Merrick Garland and the Justice Department will do when Congress says we're going to subpoena members of the Biden family. Oh, no, you can't do that because we're doing an active investigation, so you can't talk to them. Watch and see. If that happens, what I'm just telling you is the absolute truth. If they don't prevent them from going, if they continue to turn over information, then you can say I'm wrong. I won't be. I almost would guarantee it. This is James Comer, who, by the way, is going to be on our show next week. And he is talking about the subpoena to get from the Bidens and have them come and talk about the scheme of influence.
To subpoena Hunter Biden.
Yeah, this is always going to end with the Bidens coming in front of the committee. We are going to subpoena the family. I mean, we're putting the case together to win in court. Obviously, with all the opposition and obstruction we're getting from the Biden attorneys now, we know that this is going to end up in court when we subpoena the Biden. So we're putting together a case, and I think we've done that very well.
What James Comer was saying is very significant, but if you saw the graphic on the screen, it said how much time NBC has devoted to the Trump story and to the Biden story. 332 minutes on Trump and his indictments. Of the whole Biden scandal, 4 minutes and a few seconds. Go figure. We just talked about, I won't go back into this, but the Hunter Biden investigation by David Weiss. I just want to reiterate, keep an eye on this, because I am confident that Merrick Garland trotted out there today, not in the interest of justice, but in the interest of cover-up. This is a bad guy. He just is. Speaking of bad guys, let's talk Chris Wray, FBI director. Under oath, he announced some months ago that these rumors about traditional Catholics being targeted as terrorists was just some blip. It only happened in one FBI field office in Richmond, Virginia. Turns out that's a big old fat lie.
Doctor, what's the difference between a traditional Catholic and a radical traditional Catholic?
I'm not an expert on the Catholic orders.
Well, your FBI wrote a memo talking about radical traditional Catholics. I'm just wondering if you could define it for us.
Well, what I can tell you is you're referring to the Richmond product, which was a single product by a single field office.
Breaking news coming in because the House Judiciary now claims they have documents showing that both the L.A. and the Portland field offices of the FBI were contributing to this assessment that Catholics, we're talking about traditional Catholics, were potentially domestic terrorists.
You know, frankly, I found traditional Catholics to be pretty decent people. Sure. Family folks, church-oriented, community-oriented. I don't know what's so scary about a traditional Catholic other than they're pro-life, but so am I. I'm evangelical. But that scares the daylights out of people like the Justice Department and Christopher Wray. Here's the thing. Christopher Wray, there's only one of two conclusions you could come. He either was lying about the field offices, only one of them, doing any investigation and nipping that in the bud, and they stopped it. Because it was that was going on in a lot of places, West Coast, all over. So he said, only one place. Not true, Christopher. So he either was lying or this man has no idea what's going on in his agency. And when he goes to Congress to testify, he is oblivious to it, and his staff hasn't adequately prepped him for the exchange. So which is it? Incompetent or dishonest? Either way, he needs to go. Kamala Harris is known to say some weird stuff, and this week was no exception. She was asked what she thinks about when she gets up in the morning, and if I've ever heard a more ridiculous, insincere answer to a question, I can't remember the last time. Watch.
How the vice president responded when asked what she thinks about when she wakes up in the morning.
Our democracy. Rev, I think everything is at stake right now.
I think what was so insincere about that was the way she tried to dramatize it. Like, she wakes up in the morning. Most of us think, coffee, get it in my system now. Or what have I got to do? She wakes up and says, democracy. Democracy is what I think about. Does anybody in America believe that when she wakes up, that is the first thing on her mind? Nah, not a chance. Hey, Mike Huckabee here. Listen, if you love your mom, apple pie, and being conservative, you know you ought to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell and click the like button and show all the leftists out there that conservatives are thriving and patriotism is far from dead. Am I pandering too much? No way. I'm just getting started.